Yo, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Chalkcast number 29. Special guest today, Mr. Yummy Cheeseman, and obviously you guys, Twitch chat. And I'm also joined, obviously, by the host, myself, Rizzo on my right, and then further on my right, also Rizzo. So, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Oh, no. He wanted to introduce Rizzo, not you, Rizzo.
Right.
Rizzo, how you going over there?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Yeah, I thought I'd try something a bit new today. You know, no real inspiration, just wanted to do something different. But yeah, I heard there was like some haircut drama on this channel earlier on in the week. What was that about? What happened?
Well, okay. I guess we're talking about our haircuts. Okay. Well, I don't know. I got a haircut and I came home and Anthony was like, "You look EU." And I was like, okay. It, like instantly right off the bat, she's like, "You look EU. It looks good though." I was like, it was like kind of backhanded, but whatever. She said it looked good, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And she goes, "You know who you look like?" And I was like, "Who?" She said, "Johnnyboi." And I was like, "Well, okay. Why would you say that? Because now I want to just shave my whole head. Like I don't know why I would want to hear that, but I guess here we are. And now, honestly, now that you put your hair down a bit, we kind of do look very similar.
You're one step away from role playing as Johnnyboi, aren't you?
Yeah, it's actually big bro, little bro.
Yeah, just need to keep the fringe. It'll be fine. I'll let you have the fringe look. I'm not coming for your haircut. It's fine. It looks good though. I think you suit it.
Thanks. Yeah, I think it looks good. I like it too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad.
He's about to do some one-show matches, just really cranking out the crew battles.
I'm about to actually do replay reviews for kickoffs. I don't know if you guys were interested in that, but I was going to start looking at everybody's kickoffs. Kickoff tier
Have you had
list.
any like changes of heart with like your opinions on air dribble bumps? Are you a fan now after all this hate over the
I'm
years?
a big fan. I think they're going to develop into the meta even more, and I'm pumped.
Oh, it's fantastic to hear. There's actually been a lot of drama drama, not haircut drama. A lot of drama this past week. Main topic is the SSA drama. Yummy actually has a picture of Cape Town behind him. So,
the picture of Cape Town, I would say.
yeah. What's going on, Yummy? Where are you in Cape Town?
I was just thinking I'd take a nice 1 month holiday. Just seems like a really, really nice place to go. You know, I might play a little bit of Rocket League or cast a little Rocket League on the side, and that won't be the main point of my visit. But I am just randomly going to Cape Town. It should be fun.
Yeah,
why Cape Town?
Just look how nice it looks. I mean, there's a stadium. Maybe we'll end up playing in there.
There is a stadium. Wow. Look at that.
Wait, you're mentioning playing a lot, Yummy. What's going on here? What are you trying to play in?
Thinking maybe it's funny is I might travel during the next split, exactly when the next split is on.
Right.
During spring. That I was thinking maybe exactly 4 weeks, 5 weeks maybe if I have to play cast the qualifiers.
But wouldn't that mean that you missed the split back home?
Well, I'm not good enough in the split back home. I wouldn't make top 8. What's the point of that?
Yeah, you get new casters coming in and taking your spot there like CJ. So yeah, the competition is just too stiff. Best leave. Look for easier competition where you think you can get a win. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard Greybeard the other day, who's the SSA caster, saying any more casters in SSA. So obviously needs somebody. Why not?
Of course, for the uninformed, this is not actually happening. Yummy's not really going to Cape Town, but
you can see he's in Cape Town, Johnny. He doesn't need to go. He's already in there.
True. Facts. So yeah, there were 3 players they're a CRL team, right, in North America. Have I got that right?
Yep.
A CRL team. They want to go and play a split in sub-Saharan Africa, SSA. That's the region, the RLCS region, who have 2 wildcard spots for the World Championship. Last season, you would have seen them. 2 teams there. They want to go over there for a split. I think they still want to do it, right? They've not changed their mind at all.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they still want to do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they want to go out there, play for a split in SSA. And I think I saw that they were trying to do it to combine a vacation, a holiday with competition. Maybe get some money and pay for their holiday. That's oh yeah. T-Base is saying their NA bubble players don't slander the CRL name. Okay, NA bubble players aren't all CRL players bubble players, or I guess there's like one or two pros, right? Who are just smurfing in CRL. That's a different story though. But yeah, topic at hand. They announced that they were going to do this, or they announced they're looking for an org to go get paid to play an SSA for one split, and there was a lot of drama around this because of the way that they were tweeting about it. Mainly is what I saw. We can go into that in a bit, but yeah, Rizzo, you had a you actually have you uploaded a video about it yet, or is that still to come?
I uploaded a video about 45 minutes ago, so pretty good timing.
Oh, haven't had time to go watch it yet.
Essentially, the whole premise of the video, I guess I would just say, is me basically giving the timeline of like how this even happened, and then I reiterated what I tweeted, which was essentially that if you're mad at a team going to a developing region to compete while on vacation, it's a problem with the system, not the players. And somehow people took that as if I was like using that logic for everything in the world at once, but definitely not. I was talking specifically about this Rocket League situation. But my main point about the whole tweet, maybe it could have been worded better, but my main point was just that the system is broken, and I don't think full teams should be able to travel to different regions to be able to compete. I don't think full team region transfers should be allowed. And we talked about that a little bit on this podcast, I'm pretty sure. We talked about like ways we could prevent it, but obviously there's been no public discussion from like Psyonix about them actually stopping like import players and import teams or anything like that. Because I do think it's interesting for the scene for sure. Like when Turbo came to NA, like that was a really sick thing and a really cool move. And like teams moving regions, I feel like kind of lost the hype a little bit. I don't know if everybody feels the same way with that, but I think over time, gradually as teams started moving regions more and more and it kept happening more, I don't think that that initial feeling of like Turbo going to NA was the same.
I think the real problem, like I agree with you in spirit, because there's no like defined line. Where does the line actually cross? Like realistically, you could go for a weekend, right? Or 1 week and play just one regional and kind of mess up. You could even have the best thing. You could have Carmine Corp. You could have Carmine Corp go to SSA, go to one regional, and mess up a team's chance at Worlds because they were on their side of the bracket or something like that, destroyed their run. There's no actually defined line, because you also have every single kind of line here represented. You have, Turbo moving across, just like a random import to NA. And then you have Nolly and Jack moving across. 2 imports, is that enough? And they're moving to NA, is that fine? And then you have Elevate, who are moving 2 players to a smaller region and dominating that. Is that fine? And then you have a team like Complexity and Furia moving 3 players, but to a defined region like NA. And then you have maybe a team moving 3 players to a smaller region, a developing region. And then you have a team going to a developing region just for one split rather than for an entire season. Would it be okay for them to go if they were going for the entire season and actually trying to get to Worlds, compared to just going for a split and potentially ruining local teams' chances of being that second slot at Worlds?
Well, like I agree that obviously the system is changing, but in terms of this specific situation, right, these guys could have just flown over, not said anything, and just like, oh, we happen to be in a regional. Wouldn't have got the publicity. Obviously, the SSA scene still would have been a little bit annoyed if they happened to do pretty well, but it could have just completely flown under the radar. The problem with this situation is that these fellas went on Twitter and went, we are going to absolutely wipe the floor with these absolute stinkers of a region. We could do it in APAC as well, but we've decided to go to SSA. This is going to be the easiest thing ever. LMAO, region sucks. We're not going to
practice. We're not going to scrim. We're not going to do anything. We're just going to play the regional, take the money, and then leave. And that was their take.
They were like, this is going to be the easiest thing we've ever done in our lives. We could play blindfolded. They were just kicking down on a region that didn't, obviously they don't have the exposure. They don't have the practice. They're pretty new in the RLCS as well. They just came in with these bubble players that couldn't crack it in their own region, or had been, but have been around for a while. All of a sudden, just with their egos on the size of the moon, just kicking down on a region that is still developing. That was the crazy thing, and probably the reason why it's got so much exposure.
Definitely, yeah. I think that's the problem here, is that, actually, Wondermike and Lunar both tweeted this at me the other day. They were, kind of taking responsibility for their actions in a way, so that's good to see. The day after all of this happened, because this all happened in the same night that they tweeted looking for an org, they just went to war on the timeline with all of the SSA players who are saying, actually, we don't, really condone this happening. This kind of sucks from our POV. But yeah, the day after, it seems like one of Mike Lunar in particular were like, yeah, we probably didn't need to do that. We probably went about this the wrong way. My bad. But they do make a comparison here saying that they talk the same trash in NA, and therefore it's, it should be fine because, we're talking trash to SSA, but we do that in NA as well, so this shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. But I think that there's a clear difference there. When you're trash talking your own region, there's that's fine. That's, trash talking sideways to people in the same situation as you. But yeah, you can't just copy paste that trash talk and expect it to resonate when you're saying it about SSA, who are the least supported region in RLCS. They don't have their own official RLCS stream. They don't have their own spots in majors. They have, I think, the same prize money as APAC. They're the least supported region. So, talking like that to a region who are completely isolated, they can't play on the big servers and get good practice. They can't go to majors as often as other regions can and get good practice. It's just really disrespectful, and it's like a bit of a self-centered view of things. Not to realize that, probably shouldn't punch down like that. Probably should show a little bit more respect, especially in a situation where you're just going in and causing a ruckus. I think it is different from the Elevate James Cheese situation. James Cheese went out there for the whole year, so they're seed 1. They're not going to randomly be seed number 16 in an event, who are just going to take games off teams because who they shouldn't take games off. What if I think they're
and they're playing with Realize.
Elevator playing with Realize as well, so that's a 2/3 import. This is a full import in the spring split. I feel like going in a spring split is much worse for the circuit system, because what if I think there's a close fight for second place.
It's double elim as well, so it's meant to be well seeded.
Yeah, it's supposed to be it'll be perfect seeded double elim. But they're going to be lower seed than they should be, probably. Yeah. They're probably supposed to be seeded like top 3, top 4. But they're going to come in as the bottom seed because they haven't played any games the whole year. And yeah, there's a pretty close fight for second place in SSA. And if they just come in and just randomly get in the Orlando Pirates, who are currently in second place side of the bracket, eliminate them early, that kind of ruins Orlando Pirates' split, and allows teams who shouldn't be catching up to them to catch up for free. So it's not just about, beat the team in front of you. No, this is going to be a massively underseeded team who just they're going to randomly ruin someone's day. It's sort of like what Gen G do in NA. They don't win their group, and then somebody meets them in the quarterfinals. Like, what are these guys doing here? Now we're going to lose. It's kind of, I think, a different situation than going over there for the whole season.
Agreed. There were two things, from the SSA players' perspective. It was very clear. Number one, the disrespect, like punching down at minimum, and just complete disrespect outside of that. And then obviously it ruins a bunch of players' chances to A, get to Worlds if they are unlucky, and B, make the very small amount of money that is available to them. They only have a 20k prize pool compared to other regions that have 30 or 100. And so like a second or third place to them is huge compared to maybe getting knocked out in a quarters, or even before that if the double elim doesn't go in their favor.
Yeah, Snowy had a pretty no, not Snowy, sorry, who was it? Somebody tweeted today from SSA. I've totally forgotten who it was, so apologies for that. But yeah, they tweeted out, just explaining the situation that these players are in, having to deal with electricity outages, and having to deal with not being able to afford good PCs to play on.
Yeah, I think that was Magu. I actually have the thread open.
That's right. Yeah, it's Magu. Yeah. Oh, you got it. Nice.
Yeah, I can paraphrase a little bit, or I can read the whole thing. He just said, our scene has been around since launch day as any other. It didn't appear overnight when RLCS was introduced. It's been a marathon to get us to this point. Our passion bears fruits in minor victories with disproportionate celebrations. The scene doesn't just run in the background like that of a major region. As individuals of the community, we all play our parts. I played mine long ago and still feel a deep attachment. And so if you come here only to gain and not contribute, you are not welcome here. Gaming is not a casual thing in a third world country. We have to struggle with overpriced hardware, poor connectivity, electricity blackouts, low server population, etc. Importantly, gaming is simply not a career choice over here, and our prize pools are not vacation money. I sincerely hope you do get to visit our beautiful and flawed country. I only wish that you are humbled by who and what you are taking labored fruit from.
Yeah, I think that's really explaining it better than we can. So
yeah, I was kind of like, I mean, I was on the side of like SSA, but at the same time, I think, let me rephrase that. I was on the side of SSA with like the whole thing, and then I saw this tweet, and I was like, oh, that makes so much more sense. Like when you just get that other perspective with that, like the fact that, I mean, the biggest thing to me is like everything obviously, but like the electricity blackouts as well. Like sometimes those guys don't have electricity for like 7 hours throughout the day. I saw a couple tweets like that because
that's like Texas, right?
yeah. Yeah, basically like Texas, me like a week ago. So essentially the same thing. I'm sure it's a little worse, but I don't know.
Yeah,
can never be too sure. Yeah, maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit.
The situation sucks. It's not something that you can just. I mean, I feel like it was a very selfish look from the from the CRL, the bubble players trying to go over there. That's really all there is to say. It's just a selfish view of things, not not a fair thing to think about doing. They're not wrong to go. It is within the rules, like Rizzo tweeted. It's within the rules to go, but there's got to be a better way to do it than that. I feel like that's just not it. It just isn't. I don't think it's the best thing for their careers either. Like, how can that possibly be the best thing for their cares if they're trying to make it in NA?
The way
no shot that's the best thing for their career.
The way they've behaved, even advanced, even if they don't go, is not the best thing. And I even on a personal level, rather than just like talking about the rules or anything like that, even their apologies on Twitter was very much like, sorry, not sorry. You should see it from our point of view, but it didn't look to try and even see it from their point of view either. I would have preferred sorry.
Their opinion, their point of view is that we just want to have good vacation.
Just a game, we want to have fun.
Money. We want to have a good vacation, have some fun. I think they've never met up in person as a team before. So they want to do that. These are all good things, but you can't just ignore all of the negatives that come with that and say, "Oh, look, this is our point of view." No, your point of view has to be the whole picture. You can't just have this selfish view. You need to look at the bigger picture here. That's why people haven't really been on board with their idea. I think there's got to be better holiday destinations. Surely, just I don't know, play the NA split probably. Why would you sacrifice a whole split in NA against that's such valuable practice for a CRL team to just get into the closed quals? Like that has to be.
Yeah, and I feel like they said like they still want to be pros, like they still want to play, they want to get to the highest level, be the best in the world, but like I don't know, it feels like there's a lot of different arguments that don't sort of relate to what's going on right now that they're bringing in, and the whole just having fun in a vacation is just for me it's just weird. Like it's and to not, I guess, be considerate of the other side of things, really at all. Like as you said, like the apologies were again just a bit weird. Like and then it's just sort of been like, well, regardless, you're either on our side or not. We're just having fun. We're just playing games, and then it's just like, well, you've done a lot of damage already, and it sounds like they still want to do it. So, I don't know what to compare it to. Like like another real life situation, but it is really weird when you think about it. Just like how just the advantages that they have to just then go over there to a region that, as we said, has a lot of issues with their location.
It's not fair, and to try and do that without even attempting to synergize and like make something cool out of the whole help the region in some way. They were like, nah, we don't care about any of that. We're just going to come take the money and leave. That's like, come on, it can't be the way to do that. There's just no way. Chicago's saying right now he doesn't think that they're thinking about their career with this move. Obviously, they can't contend in NA, so they have to move, which shows that they're kind of just doing it for fun, knowing they don't have much of a career in line. That I'm sure that's the take many people would agree with. I don't really know. I've not been following those the bubble players in question closely enough to know if that's true or if they do have a chance of making a regional or a chance of making a closed qualifier. But it doesn't seem like they're taking it that seriously if they're just going to skip a split. to go and play somewhere else.
Rizzo, what are you laughing at?
I just said, I don't know. I saw something a little silly.
Yeah, just something a little silly.
Yeah, I saw something a little silly in chat, but I don't know. Okay, so I think there's two reasons why I think they should do this. Just because if they do it, it would be, I feel like it would actually cause a rule change if they did go and do it, and I feel like that is for the better eventually. Is that like selfish to say? I have no idea.
I'm not gonna lie. I feel like that's copium. I feel like that's copium. I feel like
how else are they going to? Well, okay.
Well, I feel like the whole situation has already happened. The fact that this whole discussion is happening should already have psionics, alarm bells going off. They don't need to actually go there for psionics to know about it and be like, wait,
this could actually ruin the top, one of the top two teams' chances. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Okay, the other reason is because it would be really funny if they lost.
Honestly, I think they could lose. I don't really know too much about them, but I think they're probably underestimating the SSA teams and overestimating themselves. It's not like they're just going to go in and completely be 100% winning. I don't think it's that simple. Yeah. But yeah.
I think that goes to like the general discussion on like what should the rules be? Where is the line drawn and how do you actually write out the rules? Because at the moment, the rules literally just say you have to reside in a region. And reside in a region is really undefined. And there's also a potential situation over in North America where you have potential in the future, if teams keep moving over, where you'll have North American teams going to majors and stuff with no players or very few players actually from the US, Canada, or Mexico at the LAN. And then that's a big thing as well. We see it in other esports. League of Legends has import restrictions, stuff like that. I think even Dota somehow has import restrictions, despite how loose it is as a esport. And I do believe that even the situation where Furia, Complexity, and Gen G were to make it, I think that would be enough for Psionics to go, oh, hang on, this is potentially a problem.
Well, one of the problems really is that, like, if we're talking about, having traditional esports rules, as you said, having like making sure you have visas, work visas and stuff, like you've got Gen G moving over, which is like one of the highest profile moves. And it like originally, I feel like those guys were kind of just like moved over to Canada. So I think nearly, their hands are tied there, Sonics, because they've let things happen for so long. Maybe they just need to like come in and stamp it out now and be like, righto, from now on, any moves, and even like the existing teams have to have visas, have to have work visas or whatever to participate, because I think they've I don't know if they've been forced to sort of let things slide, but with like a lot of the high profile moves, I feel like they weren't. Like they hadn't ticked every single box before they started competing, if that makes sense.
Can I go?
Personally, I'm very happy for teams to move to NA because it's a strong region and they have to actually fight for it, and they've got the support. And
that's different. Like, it's totally different. They're not just like going over to attempt to dominate. They're just switching either like as to a similar strength region or to a harder region.
But there is still a problem. I do foresee a problem if you ended up at, like, just imagine a situation, a hypothetical, where there was no NA players going to a major, and then all of a sudden Johnny can no longer tweet that NA are greater than EU because there's no NA players.
Yeah, that would be a disaster. But no, I think that's a different discussion though, because that's the problem you're bringing up is valid. Would North American viewers actually tune in to NA or LCS if there were no North Americans playing? We had one North American in the grand final for the most recent regional. Was that a problem for North American viewers? Did they want to watch that? Compared to if it was G2 in the final or FaZe in the final, NA people. I don't think it would have been an issue because Jack and Nolly are pretty popular, I think, in North America as well. So that's, fine. But let's say, I think the worst case scenario for NA viewers in this season would be a Furia versus Complexity final, which is not out of the question, by the way. That could happen. I think both teams would have to really perform well and catch Gen G on a bad day. in order for that to happen. But it's feasible. It's feasible enough to merit discussion. Would NA viewers care about that? Would they want to watch CRR, Raze, Bull, AJG versus Furia in a fight?
I think they would.
I don't think that's the question. I think the question is, would they support a strong teams going, the NA teams going to the major if they're
or I think that the fact that there's still like good there's still American NA contending teams in NA is fine. But the problem is if it becomes like a League of Legends where there's like one North American player in the entire main event.
Yeah,
that's
true. That's why
League of Legends still sucks somehow.
Yeah, that's I think the saving point for Rocket League is that NA is way better at Rocket League than they are at other esports, as far as I'm aware. So, teams like Gen G and Furia, they're not just coming in and winning everything, Gen G kind of are, but getting every grand final, taking away all the major spots for free. Because in other esports, NA is a minor region. It's like it's just not competitive on the world stage. But in Rocket League, NA's players and teams are very good, so it doesn't right now seem to be an issue.
In League of Legends, NA lose to OCE, who doesn't even have a region. Like there's no OCE tournament. And in CS:GO, they send like 2 NA teams to a major and like 14 EU teams. Dota 2, like they have the same problem, though there was a Dota 2 team that won TI once, so that's pretty cool. Very very good. I think they had EU imports, but same diff.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think in Rocket League it's fine for now, but if Psyonix decided to do something, I don't think it would be bad. I think if there was some kind of restrictions, it would be fine, but it's okay right now the way it is as well. But for the other regions, like APAC, SSA, I think they do need some kind of protection.
I think this is a situation where you do need rules. Like the rules have been similarized across every region. I do think you should have specific rules for smaller regions that potentially protect them. I don't think OC needs protection. Nobody needs to move there, and there's enough strong teams, in my opinion, to like if they lose to suck it up.
I think it's just APAC and SSA. They're the newest regions. They're the regions with the most catching up to do. So I think rules like if a player or a team play any event at all in those regions, they can't play for that whole season anywhere else. Like you just have to stay there. Like Elevate are doing right now in APAC. If you're gonna go, you've got to stay. You got to be a part of that ecosystem.
What happens though if you get like some kind of 6-month visa and you expect to be able to get another 6 months at the end, and the visa falls through or something, you can't then play?
That's inherent risk. That's inherent risk. Yeah, you got to just take that. You've got to own that risk, I think, and that would be the decision for the players to make. But also, like halfway through a season, obviously they might try and sign someone. Maybe a player like I don't know, breaks their wrist, can't play. They need a new player. They have to bring someone else in. But I think you'd have to limit it to like one, like per split. You can't just have a whole new team move in halfway through a split. Yeah, it's what Elevate have done doesn't seem to have caused any problems in APAC. I don't know. Is there do any of the APAC
they're absolutely dominating, but
they're dominating, But
they at least try it. Like they scrim every other team. They participate in 6-man.
They're in the ecosystem, aren't they?
They're part of they're part of the region now. They're in that region. That's what they're contributing. So I don't think APAC have a problem with that. I don't think APAC are viewing that negatively like SSA do about this other situation, which is completely different. So
can I give a genius example, a hypothetical, if you
please? Yes.
And now let's think about this hypothetical. What if Gen G, right? Their intention was to move to NA, obviously, and they went to Nully and Jack went to Canada first until they could get approved to be in the US. And hypothetically, what if they just didn't qualify and then they had to go back to EU? Would we then consider that a vacation?
I guess we could.
And then would they be in the same boat?
It's just different because it's still, as we said, they're going sideways. Like they're moving to NA. It's not.
Yeah, we were talking about smaller regions, and also I would say
plus the intent, they were trying to be there.
That's
at least
also covered by the rules. You can't rule intent. Let's be clear, because all that does is mean that like obviously Wonder Mike and Luna are idiots and said, you know, we're going on a vacation, blah blah blah. They showed their intent.
Still saying it in chat.
Most players are going to just do it, you know, and not talk about their intent. So in theory, that's not like the best way you can rule it. However, I'd say if you didn't make a top 16 and you went back, then you weren't part of it, and that can easily be ruled in. You know, if you make a top X, then you can't go back and play in your original region. So, like, if you went to APAC and you completely failed, no harm done. Didn't make a top 16, didn't make a top 8, whatever the rule would be, didn't get any prize money maybe, then you'd be allowed to move back.
One of Mike says, I feel like just popping up in SSA without an explanation is worse. I probably not in your situation in terms of just completely like publicly saying how terrible the players in the region is and how easy to be is worse. I know it'd be
worse for you because you want to speak to at least like an admin.
Think here's the correct way I think that they could have done this is they could have said, okay, you know, we're going to be in SSA. Forget about all this like vacation thing. Just say we are actually going to be there during the spring split. We want to participate. If an org wants to, you know, pick us up, that would be great. While we're there, we're going to be working with the, you know, teams in the region. You know, playing 6-man scrimming. We really want to be a part of the ecosystem. And also we're reaching out to Psionics to maybe get some kind of, you know,
okay, wait, let me stop you there. Let me stop you there. Reaching out to Psionics won't work. I'm just gonna say it right there.
All to say is like, okay, we've reached out to Psionics to suggest that they seed us higher based on like some kind of seeding event that they do to see that they're real seed, so that they don't like get randomly seeded into like Orlando Pirates round 1 and send them to the lower bracket, you know, something like that, or eliminate a team who are actually contending for a world spot. You know, there could be some kind of, there's probably a solution there, having a seeding event because a team have joined the region in the spring who are probably not 16th seed. They're probably higher seed than that. You need to do something about that.
I don't think that ever like change, like do a seeding event either. Like knowing,
I think in a situation like this, it's possible.
It would be beneficial, but
like I'm just saying, you know, I think that would have been the way to do it. Like, think about it from SSA's POV. Think about it from like the community's POV, the other players that you're going to be competing against, and then, you know, honestly, I think a smart move would have been to say, and we're actually going to be passing up all the prize money because that's not what we're here. We're just in the region. You know, I think it would have been smart to do it like that, because. Yeah, I'm sure you would love to win some money, but it sounds like you're pretty committed to doing this anyway, regardless. Like money or no, like it sounds like if this is possible for you, then yeah, just go and do it, and yeah, try and look at it from SSA's POV.
So somebody mentioned in chat the situation is sorry, I just stuttered. The situation is exactly why the age needs to be increased for RLCS, but these are CRM players. Like these guys are like adults. They're 18 plus. They're older. So it doesn't really make much sense to up that unless you're trying to up it to like 25 or something. I don't know, just random age.
30-year-olds only. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, like I think it's like obviously the rules need to change for it, which is clear, but it still doesn't mean that you can just do it even if it like the rules allow. It doesn't make it like either a smart thing to do or something that should be done. I don't know, and I guess, you know, Rizzo's sort of tweet, I guess everyone was comparing it to real life situations, which is a weird thing to do, but it also sort of, you know, to sort of try and relate to that. It is similar. Like, just because something can be done doesn't mean it should be done for the sake of it, which is kind of what's happening here.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's not. Is there anything in the RLCS rules about like how much you can spam quick chats and stuff? Nobody does it. Like, even though. Actually, some players did do it back in the day. Well, but I'm pretty sure, you know, there's things you can do that are just annoying to the opposition, the opponents. You're not going to do it though, because it's like, okay, let's just respect each other as competitors, because there wouldn't be a competition if there was no.
That's the rule. Is like something along the line. Like, there's nothing specific about quick chat spamming, but like if you are quick chat spamming, it could fall under like being respectful to the opponent and stuff like that.
There's a lot of stuff in the rules that isn't defined purposely. Like, I think resides in is not defined purposefully because that gives the room for admins to, or like the organizers, Sarnix, to make the decisions based on the spirit of the rule rather than very hard line, because if you have a hard line of a rule, it's easy to find the loophole and just go through it. And that's similar to, quick chatting. There's a rule like don't be disrespectful. And so the way that rule would be enforced is an admin would say, hey, quick chatting your opponent constantly is disrespectful. Don't do it or you'll be fined, further on, banned, etc.
Well, maybe if it was like Call of Duty, how they have gentlemen's agreements where that's sort of a subset of rules decided by the players. Certain, kill streaks, guns can't be used, stuff like that. Maybe we just need to have like a, some Rocket League gentlemen's agreements rules.
No bumping, no
bumping, no demo.
I've actually already got. I wrote this up, CJ. The general commandments. It exists. It's a
skilled goals
canon.
only.
Canon. No weird kickoffs, no air double
skilled
bumps.
goals only. Yan is finished.
No toppers. Yeah,
wait, actually, I heard something like people were molding during like the 1v1 thing you did, Johnny, because he kept air double bumping. Is that true? Is that something like that?
So yeah, I actually went back and looked at the exact amount. Yan scored 4 air dribble bumps in the first game against Daniel that they played on my channel yesterday. And then in every game after that, he scored, I think, 1 in games 2, 1 in game 3, 1 in game 4, 2 in game 5, if I recall. So he did air dribble bump like a lot. He tried more that didn't work, but most of them worked, and it was mostly game 1. That was what he did at the start, and then he switched to other strats later when Daniel was starting to try and counter air dribble bumps. But yeah, Daniel had a game as well where he hit 3. He scored 3 air dribble bumps in one game later in the series. So yeah, not so much complaining about that from Daniel's fans. Who Daniel's got some crazy fans, gotta say. I love Daniel. I love working with him. He's like very, he's always on time. He always like puts everything on like all 100% effort into every game he plays. And he's super talented and exciting to watch. But man, some of his fans are weird. There was one comment you showed me, CJ. Like while I was like talking about the differences, I said something like, I think, Yan is probably the best 1v1 attacker in the world. And I truly believe that. I think he is. I think if you had top term cards, I said he'd be a 10 on attack and maybe a 9 on defense. So Daniel would be a 9.5 in both. So they're both extremely close. But I'd say Daniel's got better defense, marginally. Yan's got better offense, marginally. And someone in chat wrote, Dan makes more money than Dan makes more money. And so I'm like, what is this? What is this comment?
I had a
also, I don't think he does. I think Yan made a disgusting amount of money last year because he got 4th at Worlds.
That's true.
He won Gamers 8, so it's not even
true. First off, valid. Second off, I had actually a second or like a kind of similar situation with that about Squishy or something, where people were arguing like the skill set of Squishy versus somebody else. This is like 3 years ago or whatever. And then some guy in chat was like, yeah, but Squishy has a Corvette. Just flex on. It's true though. Squishy has a Corvette, so I mean it makes sense.
That's class. I mean,
so when we're on the analyst desk, all we should do is talk about who the richest players are. Oh man, this Squishy guy, he's so rich. Just watch how rich he is on the pitch today. That'll be great.
Classics also has a Corvette, which doesn't really also add up in the competitive Rocket League world.
The poker analysts would be talking
Classics
about it.
Beat you at a Worlds?
Classics also beat me at a Worlds.
We're all
talking both of you at the same Worlds, actually.
Actually, looks like we're out of time for the day. Welcome. Thanks, everybody, for watching Shotcast.
Rough scenes. But anyway, look, it's an interesting situation, the whole thing, and we'll have to see what comes from it. If Psyonix make a statement or something, or the boys just go and the SSA region blows up, or
at minimum, we can hope that at least like there's not some random team that gets completely screwed over that was in competing for Worlds.
Yeah, competing for that second World.
Maybe there'll be a luck that it all works out.
Hope so.
We'll see.
Oh, so one other thing that I wanted to briefly mention here on a different topic is, so Turbo tweeted after failing to qualify for the second regional of the split, he tweeted that something like maybe it might be time to call it, or it might be time to end it. What did he tweet again? I'm going to have to go find it. He's hinting retirement after failing to qualify for the second regional. He didn't make the first one either, I believe.
At this point, I just think it's time. That's what he said.
At this point, I think it's time, he tweeted. Sad to see. I didn't get a chance to watch any of those games yet, but did any of you guys watch Dark Zero's games?
I did not get to watch
Dark Zero's games. Yeah, they went 1-3 in the 3 teams. I mean, these close calls are pretty stacked now for North America. It's it's not like they're losing to teams who they shouldn't be
Did
losing
come
to.
7th or something, like sort of just scraped through after coming top 4 in a regional.
Yeah, I think that happened. So, yeah, that's kind of some relevant news that we have to bring up, but definitely sad to see. What if Turbo does retire? If he thinks it's time, it's up to him. What would you like to see him do next? What do you guys think is next for Turbo in the Rocket League scene?
Well, I still held the hopium that it was just like a knee-jerk reaction after,
and that he won't retire. Yeah,
and that he won't retire. But I'm happy for, like, Turbo is such a personality. I'd like to see him do something personality-wise, whether that's being on the analyst desk, being part of First Touch, streaming. Hopefully streaming. I wish he streamed
Go to
earlier.
SSA.
We go to SSA.
Oh dear.
That could be a good move. Yeah, Turbo's so funny. Like, I feel like he maybe hasn't had that exposure, or hasn't given himself the exposure in terms of showing his personality that much. So I know a lot of people know how funny he is and stuff, but he's certainly got a future anywhere he wants to, where his face is a bit more on camera and he's talking.
He says he's joining NRG. They need my help. That
again,
would be.
He said again.
Incredible. Oh my goodness.
They need him back.
Love to see it.
I think it's knee jerk though. Turbo, he'll stick around.
Yeah.
I think they've got. It's such a cutthroat regional. Like, they might just pop up next split and swing it around with a bit of off-season prac, some more scrims. They got Gregan just signed as a coach as well, so let's see what they can do with a bit of an off-season. They've got a lot of time now. I mean, the next split probably starts in May, so they're chilling. They got a few months ahead of them to prac if they put their head down. So we'll see if Turbo will put his head down and go for it.
Sorry, I just laugh because it's like you say, he's got a few months until his next regional or whatever it is, a few months to lock in and stuff. But it's like, man, why is there a few months, 3 months or whatever? Wait, what'd you say? When did he play?
After having like 5 months off, yeah,
like end of April, I think is the next one. He's got
a few months to play 2 weekends of regionals, and then another few months off.
2 months to prep for a weekend.
It's kind of the format. It's a bit cutthroat. 3 months till next NA quals. Yeah, we had a bit of a discussion about this for the format at the start of the season or in the off season, about how it's a bit interesting when you work out that some teams have 5-6 months off, and then they're playing for a couple of weekends, then 3 months off, then a couple of weekends, then 3 months off, and then couple weekends, and then it's another 5 months off.
Teams that don't make invite, but also just teams that don't make the major have a long time off. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, from third split major worlds, it's crazy. A lot of time off into the off season.
We should probably touch on that briefly as well. So the third regional of every split is the top 16 teams in overall points this season, not split points. So
that's crazy.
The top 16 teams have just been confirmed for EU after Regional 2 completed. And 2 of the teams who have made it into the Invitational did not make regionals this split, but because of their success in the fall split, they are still in the top 16. And they're going to be playing in the Invitational this split, well, in a couple of weeks in EU. So, yeah, that's just another way that some teams are not being able to participate for longer.
That's an incredibly odd ruling. Like, I saw, I don't remember who I saw tweet that, but it was it does not make any sense why they take overall points.
Well, see, to try and think of it from like the perspective of what is it trying to achieve? Like, to try and think about what is that trying to do? It's clearly an attempt to get a more consistent, set of teams participating for in front of the audience, basically a more consistent 16 throughout the year, and not new teams every time. I guess it's like an attempt to keep teams from changing. Well, I mean, because
the last 2 splits we've seen completely different teams than the 2 that are coming in. So not 2 splits, 2 events. We're going to be seeing brand new teams coming in.
Well, let me just say, maybe I explained it badly. Maybe I explained it badly. What it does is, if you're in a top 16 team, there is no incentive to not blow up the roster and just start fresh the next split. Whereas in last season format, if nothing's going that well, you're like 11th. You're like, oh whatever, we're not going to make major. Let's just blow up the roster, get a brand new team. We'll just own the next split, go straight to that. You just make a new team and make it into that LAN. But now you're probably going to miss that invitational, that third regional, if you do that. So there's much more incentive in this format for teams to stay together if they're in the top 16. I think that's what it's trying to do. Not have as many teams changing.
Doesn't work in OCE, does it there, CJ?
Doesn't work in OCE.
Third, fourth, and fifth teams all blew up.
Look, the problem with going to overall points is it's kind of almost introducing like a league play into it where we're sort of shutting off everyone outside the top 16 for the rest of the season in a way. When a third regional is always going to total points, which means teams that aren't in the top 16 for total points, they're never going to be able to make a major outside the first split when it's sort of.
Do you think it's bad that the World Championship is based on like total points? Because some team could be really good in fall, decent in winter, terrible in spring, and still make World Championship if they do really well.
No,
in
that's
fall.
fine. I think that's fine. I think,
it's the same idea though. It's the same concept of like if you've had a good fall, and then let's say a team had a really good fall, really good winter, and then they just had the worst imaginable, like what do you call it, spring, where they're like, oh no, it's all gone wrong in spring. Now you just don't see that team in the invitational at all, and people are like, where's this team gone?
Would you be happy, Johnny, for a team that did really well at the very beginning, and then in the third split literally came dead last but kept getting invited because they had enough points across the season, and that was enough to get them to Worlds, literally coming dead last and then but still having enough Worlds points to get the extra 3 points which sends them over the line, or 4 points or whatever it will be in spring split?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I see it as pretty fair, to be honest. I don't know. A lot of people are saying it's unfair. I think it's fair because the two teams. Well, so I can pull up the two teams that have done this.
I don't think it's that bad. Disagree more. I don't think
it's as bad as people are making it out to be. I really don't.
I still just want to see I want it to be internal to the split. I want to see teams that have done well across the split get the invite because those are the teams that have done the best over the split. That's the one that makes the most sense to me. And surely to the audience who's watching.
The problem with it, as I said, is it feels like we're really honing in on the top 16, locking it in, going almost to a league play, but we don't have anything underneath it anymore. Like at least when we had sort of a locked, top 16, top 8 or whatever, when we had RLCS, we had RLRS, we had qualifiers, we had other things. There was always like progression you could move. But as we're saying now, if you're locking in the top 16 total points, third regional is always locked, sort of majors, you can't just pop up for a split. And if you do well in that split, that could be your split where you show up and make major or whatever. This is like we don't have any other system. This is the reason why we're looking at Dark Zero with 3 months off or whatever, because there's nothing to do underneath. There's no RLRS.
I think that's a separate issue, though. I think that's a separate discussion. It is relevant.
I think it ties in with the format that they're doing, though, if that makes sense. Like we're really limiting who we're keeping in the region.
Yeah, but I don't think the lack of another kind of competition happening necessarily means that what they've done is wrong. Like I don't think it's as bad as people are saying, because if I just go through some of the results for you, it doesn't sound as crazy. Because when you just say, oh yeah, there's two teams who are going to be in the Invitational who didn't even qualify for either of these events that have happened so far this split, the teams that did who have lost at their expense actually finished dead last in the in these events. The only team who didn't finish dead last and have had a spot taken away from them is Vertigo, who did well in their group and then they lost in round one. That's a brand new team. But yeah, the Monaco Esports, they got 2 wins in Swiss in one of the regionals, 1 win in Swiss in the other one, and that's where they got their points from. So yeah, I don't think it's as clear as people are saying. I mean, the teams who have lost out, finished dead last in one regional, or second last in one regional, they're like, wait, we deserve it more than the team who finished 9th to 11th last split. I'm like, I don't know if you do. It's pretty close actually, because that team barely didn't qualify. You did.
Should there be some kind of points for getting close to qualifying then? Because at the moment, you qualify for the top 16 by having a really good Swiss in the closed quals, and you get 3 points. Maybe a 2 points and a 1 point in the closed qualifiers would have separated that. I think that's what would have got Vertigo over the line, because they were literally game 5 in 4 of their 5 series, and in 3 of them were losses. So they were really close, and Monaco, who obviously did do really well in the first split, haven't done well in this one. They were also really close, but Fufax Top, who was Heat last split, they didn't get close to qualifying, and they have made it.
The only thing I do think might have been overlooked is that teams that played in the fall did well in fall, like Fufax Stop and Monaco. They gained points in the fall invitational. They got points in the regional 3 of the fall. And those are points that the teams who didn't do well in the fall didn't have available. They weren't able to compete for those. So they got points from like 3 different events. And so far this split, there's only been 2. So they're like kind of behind. So I feel like maybe the way to have done this would be to ignore, when you're looking at the top 16 teams to invite, ignore the invitational points, because the invitational points skews it in favor of teams who have done well earlier in the season, which is not what is supposed to happen. You're supposed to, the point system, the circuit is supposed to skew later in the season. What
Anybody to see how huge Rizzo's forehead was?
Holy, you're covering that thing like an absolute madman.
You do that again? Do that again.
No, I can't do that. I can't do that again.
He shocked himself more than anything.
Pushed his hair down.
Wait, can someone clip that?
I don't mean to cut the conversation, but some guy said, I can't trust a hairline I can't see, so I just went like, God damn!
Jesus. Is it receding? Are you going bald?
No, he's just got a fat widow.
Oh, he's going bald, yeah.
I guess I'm balding at 25.
I guess, like, I'm sort of taking a different angle than you guys in terms of just like the overall ecosystem of the esport. Like, it just feels like it's a little bit less alive. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like back in the day, we had like Gfinity's always going on, Astro 3v3s, even like ESL weeklies, Dream Hacks. There was just always other things going on, but now it's just, I'm not, this isn't again another discussion like where the bubble play is going to play. It's just like a general esport discussion. Like, what do we don't have anything outside the RLCS, outside the 4 LANs that we have, and well now Gamers 8, I guess. Is
RLCS has literally muscled out the competition, right?
They have, exactly.
I don't think
there's so many weekends, and the prize money is so much bigger than it ever was. It's 6 million now, and it used to be like 2 million across a year. So it's absolutely blown up. And how you meant to be another tournament organizer competing with RLCS on both time and money?
It's extremely top heavy, I guess you'd say as well. When we say top heavy, it's like outside the top 16, but which is fine, which is what it should be. But as you said, there's sort of nothing else. Do you think, I don't always like to we've divulged a bit into sort of format changes, going to 2 splits, whatever. What if they just sort of did a bit more of a Counter-Strike approach of, let's open it up to other TOs to, like, obviously ESL have their own thing, or DreamHacks, but what if they said, hey, you can run a tournament, you can run a LAN, we'll count it towards World Champs, like we'll have more of a circuit, and then we can have 6-7 LANs a year that all count towards a Worlds, or maybe some have more weight than others, so teams can pick and choose where they go. And then you're going to have, it's going to be a little bit more, I feel like the scene's going to be more alive.
That's what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Well, LANs are the answer. LANs are way, way more fun to watch, way more exciting for the players. Just simply a much better product than Online Rocket League. Online Rocket League is great, but LANs are like the real reason that we follow this esport. If there's no LANs, it gets pretty, pretty hard to watch, as we found out during the pandemic. We were like, oh man, we just cannot wait for LANs. So anything that gives more LANs is a win in my book. And right now there's so much RLCS 3v3 on the calendar that there's not even any incentive for other orgs, TOs to come out and do events, because they're like, what are we going to do? Make another threes event? And yet again, the pros don't even want to play it, because they're like, oh man, we just finished playing RLCS. We're, going to take a day off, then we're right back to scrims again. There's no time, there's no space in the calendar for that. And yeah, 2-split format would work better for that, because you'd have a longer off season. There would be less roster move drama, hopefully, in theory. But who knows?
Do we blow it up though? Do we just blow up the format? Get rid of, forget about like 2-split, 3-split, and let's just get to saying, righto, here's 4 or 5 slots a year. Or tournament organizers, companies, come at us if you want to run an event.
I don't think so. I think that's a very that might dilute the quality. I think one thing that has happened is that Rocket League gameplay has increased, like the quality has increased significantly since this open format has started because it's so organized, it's so structured compared to what we had before. So we'd lose out a little bit of that if we blew up the circuit. I think keep the circuit, but just make it less of the calendar and leave space for other events to happen. And yeah, hopefully as well. I think the biggest thing, obviously I'm biased here, I think the biggest thing RLCS could do, biggest thing Psyonix could do would be to have other game modes, other types of events. They should have a like mid-season, kind of crew battle, cross-regional kind of event. Like imagine we had a SMAD, RLCS official SMAD on LAN where there's like EU and NA players in one team. You got a SAM player and an EU player and a MENA player in this team. That would be so incredible. Everybody would watch that. Everybody would want to see it. Yeah. It would be better. It would be more interesting than just another threes event. And then if having a 2s RLCS circuit, a 1s RLCS circuit, I think would supplement it very well. A World Cup. These are the real ideas I think that we need to be making happen. Not how much 3v3 can we fit in the calendar, because it's just like it's so repetitive.
There's also a significant problem, CJ, in that again going back to the prize money now being 6 million. You can't just go to RLCS really and go, you know what, we're going to cut the prize money in half. But that's something that you almost have to do because, like, if you're letting events run as part of the split, considered a minor, for example, you're going to have to provide them financial support, and that's what it was in the past. If I recall, pretty much every major LAN in the past, like all DreamHacks, were Psyonix sponsored events. Like Psyonix paid, and then that was great because they were part of the ecosystem. It made sense, but it feels like they're spending so much money on RLCS now that they may not be a possibility. I mean, that's just at least something to think about.
Well, if they drop the prize pool, they could just say, okay, the prize pool's 5 mil, but we're actually putting 1 million into like all these LANs. So that no one would complain about this. No one. Maybe someone. There's always someone complaining, but no one should complain about that.
Like, I want to stay home. Can we not do this?
Like if LANs are a $250,000, people are still going to go. They have to be like 500k or whatever, or 200k, 150k, whatever. But yeah, I still maintain 2019 was easily the best year for the esport in terms of like it felt like with Rocket League we had DreamHacks, we had BTS, we had WSOE.
That second half of the year, how crazy was that? Where it was like every month we're just at a LAN somewhere else. Like
that was
Valencia,
amazing.
BTS, Montreal,
even Gnarly was like a thing back then as well.
Yeah,
it
was so ridiculous.
And not all the LANs were knocking your socks off. Some of them were in a science convention center with a dingy bell all the time. But it just felt like the esport was alive. There was always things to go to. Bubble teams could always be like, well, we didn't do this. Let's go for that one. We didn't make that. Let's do the Gnarly qualifiers. Let's do a Astro 3v3 weekly. The EU guys were like, we can still play Gfinity LANs. Like that was all happening in 2019, but it didn't feel overwhelming. And you could still sort of pick and choose what you wanted to watch. And that's when it felt like Rocket League was just going to take off. But now I feel like almost like they said, that was awesome. Let's do that. Let's have our 4 LANs a year, pump up the prize money. But it's almost just, it's just taken over the entire year.
But if regionals were LANs, CJ, it doesn't necessarily need to be like, okay, less RLCS. You could just turn regionals into LANs. Like, regional, the invitational could be a regional LAN, like an NA regional LAN.
Do you think that's sort of solving the problem though of
absolutely. I feel like
the rest of the teams though, not just at the top in terms of keeping it fresh for the top and the viewers, but in terms of like the growth of the scene, like the grassroots, if you will, Rocket League scene, where they're still not going to be able to participate in a lot of those events. Like before you had different qualifiers and stuff.
Yeah, I totally want to have more events as well, like some kind of like national team competing event, like World Cup style. 100% that would like complement like the scene super well for like threes players to have a different thing to do. But I think both. Regionals being LANs, just Regional 3 being a LAN would be insane. Having a 2-split format, space in the calendar for like other stuff, that would be so good. Yeah, maybe like just take some prize money away from that and put it into other events. Yeah, there's so many ideas here that I think could work. More LANs. This is simple. That's a TLDR. More LANs.
Yeah.
More LANs.
More different LANs. I want to nearly say, like we talk about the majors sort of feeling like worlds. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of
we want a mid-season event where it's like kind of crazy. Not 3v3. That's why I loved Gamers 8 was crew battles. That was genius of them, because if they just did another threes event between the Spring Major and Worlds, it would have been like, what are you doing? Like this is just the same again, which is like, oh great. It kind of like also takes away from like if Spring Major happens, Moist win. Then there's another big threes event like 2 weeks later, and another team wins. It's like, oh great, so Moist were the best team for 2 weeks, and then someone else wins. You gotta let it breathe a little bit. Let that team be the best for a while before you have another big threes LAN.
It was very funny during the
Dignitas
era where there were a lot of other LANs. Like they would win Worlds, but then come second or third in
Elite,
LANs. Yeah, and it's sort of like. If they had only played, say, Worlds and not these other threes tournaments, then everyone would have just been like, I mean, we were still like that, but like it wouldn't have taken away a little bit from it.
Yeah, totally. If they didn't go and win everything else and get to finals all the time, then yeah, but they were just ridiculous. Go to team.
Anyway, that
sort of leads us on to our next topic, right? Is that we've been watching so much NA versus NA, EU versus EU. And then all of a sudden, a discussion about NA versus EU, an exciting thing that happened at LAN comes up. And Johnny, what was happening on Reddit? We saw multiple Reddit posts this week, and what actually happened?
Okay, well, the short story is I was just sitting down and enjoying another great episode of the First Touch podcast. I love the First Touch podcast. I'd encourage you all to watch it. Great content. Shout out to T-Bates, Roldiz, Daz, and all the guests that they get on. But yeah, T-Bates has some ridiculous takes, and I love him for it because I disagree with 99% of what he says. But yeah, if we all agreed on everything, it would be boring. So I love T-Bates. And one of the things that really stood out to me that he said on the podcast, I'm slightly paraphrasing here, but you don't need context. This is what he said. He said, EU has done nothing in the past year to show that they're better than North America. So I thought that seems like a little bit of an off take for me. I'm gonna go and look at the stats for last year, just some very surface level stats. I tweeted out some stats at T-Bates about how many LANs EU's won, how successful EU players have been, win rates, all that. Just some stats on my own Twitter at T-Bates. That was just to remind him that he might need to reevaluate that opinion. But yeah, I guess Reddit don't. I guess the Rocket League Esports Reddit don't watch First Touch because they thought I just tweeted that out of the blue for no reason but to annoy them, and they had a 300 comment thread about how annoying it is EU versus NA is still being forced down their throats by analysts and casters in the Rocket League scene. So yeah, they were pretty upset about it. But yeah, that's I think all that happened really. I don't think there's anything else
I just want to say that to me, the EU versus NA, the whole discussion is incredibly entertaining still. It was absolutely peak in, when we didn't have LAN events. But the first, what was it, the first LAN back Sweden? Was that it?
Yeah.
The first LAN back Sweden was incredibly hyped because of the EU versus NA debate. And obviously it's died down a little bit because we've actually had international matchups, but it's still incredibly entertaining because, which is also another reason why I want the ruling for import teams and stuff like that is because it's extremely fun to root for your region. I don't really me personally, I don't have teams that I root for just because, unless I'm a paid fan like Moist. But having regional pride is I don't know. So I don't understand how every other sport has this regional pride, and I understand teams are actually from the cities and stuff like that. But you're from NA. Why don't you want to root for NA? You're from EU. Why don't you want to root for EU? It just doesn't make sense to me why the discussion is not.
It's
worth
super
it to
interesting.
People.
The weird thing about it to me, right, is when we had it in RLCSX, we had no results to go off because it was all online. EU's playing EU, NA's playing NA, and it was the fun, the NA fans were up in arms, the EU fans, everyone was in on it, and it was so fun. There was no results, so anyone was the winner. And now we've had LANs back. We actually have sort of statistics to bring up. Well, actually, this team is me. And everyone's like, this is the worst discussion ever. Why are we even talking
facts into it? What is this bullshit?
Because there's results. And you don't want to, this is, again, the reason that people don't like the debate is because sometimes they're on the wrong side of it in certain scenarios or in certain times or eras, which is right now, EU statistically have a little bit better. And we're just seeing a lot of the NA fans be like, this is so boring. But then I believe it goes the other way. NA start winning a couple of LANs. They'll be like, don't see many of the EU boys talking about their regional debate anymore.
I
It's going to
cannot
go
wait.
the same both ways.
I cannot wait for NA to
It's
just
gonna
be on
it's
top
gonna go
again.
the same both ways. Right
You're
now,
gonna
we're
love
just
it.
seeing more EU people talking about the regional debate because statistically, right now, they are winning the regional debate. Who's better? Because we've seen it at LANs. And it's gonna go same the other way. When NA start winning, we're gonna see the NA fans start talking about the regional debate again. Look at the numbers.
Yeah.
NA starting to win. And you're gonna get the EU fans being like, oh, who cares? Or being like, oh, you guys weren't saying it when EU are on top. It's just gonna keep going back and forth like that.
It's going to be worse.
Listen,
it's going to be 10 times worse. All of you, and I'm talking to all of you NA Redditors, I've seen like the, what do you call it?
Every
the
single
demographical breakdown. Have you seen the census? It's like the Early Sports subreddit is like 70% North Americans, 25% EU, 5% other. So I wonder why they don't like the debate. Not a difficult thing to figure out, in my opinion. But the day that NA like dominate, oh man, the timeline's gonna blow up. Reddit's gonna blow up. They're gonna love NA versus EU debate. They're gonna, and you're gonna see so many comments like, "I don't even like the debate about NA versus EU, but isn't it funny that NA is doing so well?" And then you're gonna see comments like, "I'm from EU, but even I would love to congratulate NA." Yeah, it's great how you can just make up what region you're from and your comment and act like it's undeniable truths. You're going to see those comments, trust.
Everyone loved it in RLCSX because you couldn't prove who was better. Like, there was no way. So it was just purely 50-50.
Yeah,
you could just misinformation. It was great.
Yeah, both fan bases could just say whatever they wanted about absolute nonsense. This region's more mechanical, but this team's got better team play. Stuff like you could just say anything because there was no results. And now we have results. You're always going to get like a little bit of an imbalance in terms of the results because one region might actually be better or proven to be faster because we're getting stats at lands. And now all of a sudden the discussion's like, this is shit. Like, stop talking about it. It's like, no, we still want to keep talking about it because it's interesting. It's going to keep going to the top of the Reddit because people are interested in it. It's just that some people aren't happy with the current side of the discussion, which is
there's
always
a reason those threads get 300 comments. And you know what actually tilted me though? What actually tilted me, I'm not going to say all of Reddit because that's not true. But there was a lot of people in that first thread that are literally complaining about somebody's personal Twitter and somebody's personal stream. And even one of the Reddit mods made a 7-paragraph thing about how annoying it is, spending more time talking about how annoying it is than anybody talks about the argument. And I'm just thinking, this is somebody's personal content. On the analyst desk, it comes up, but like,
when it's relevant,
act like it's the only thing that people ever talk about on the analyst desk. It's so misrepresented.
Yumi, I was streaming for like 3-ish hours or 2.5 hours. I can't remember. Had 3 like one show matches, which were, in my opinion, like world class matchups. And then I think like a 30-second window, Dazarin said hi in my chat, so I gave him a shout out for like reacting to that thread and having, in my opinion, pretty good takes on it and just having a good time about the whole situation. And that's the only bit of my stream that got clipped to the Reddit, is me talking about Reddit, not any of the like incredibly high level matchups.
Oh yeah, I think I saw that one. Wasn't the title was like Johnnyboi opinion on something, the debate.
On the current anniversary, I was like, actually, like it doesn't really bother me that people are hating on me and my content. Like nothing Reddit says is going to influence my decisions of what I'll do as a caster or a content creator.
I was reading through the Reddit thread with Johnny, and I'm sitting there getting tilted, and he's just laughing. So.
The guy who posted that clip literally did it to rage bait. He did it much later. Who's he rage baiting? Like, because the entire Reddit just blew up. Did he rage bait? Like,
well, the problem with Reddit,
you guys everyone bought it. Like, everyone.
The thing is, like, that's actually what the Reddit is about, though. Like, you've got to think Reddit. It's a platform that just by the upvote system naturally lends itself to controversial and skewing negative takes. Like, if you post the exact same thing except you flip the positive and negative angle. 2 threads, the negative one is going to get more upvotes because it's more controversial. News, controversy sells. News always tends to skew more negative. That's what Reddit is. So you're going to like attract people who are just naturally negative and controversial in what they type, are going to think, wow, I'm so popular and write all the time. Look at my upvoted comments, and they're more inclined to write more. And that's how the Reddit, the active commenting Reddit community tends to be so contrarian and so negative. Is because those are the people that are going to get upvotes and be like, yeah, I'm good at this. I'm going to keep typing. And then all the people who are like actually just trying to, you know, have some positive takes every now and then, and not spread controversy, they're gonna get like 2 upvotes.
Well, to be fair, the people who do speak like extreme negatives and stuff, they do get downvoted. Or when people do say something extremely stupid as well, they also get downvoted. Like you usually don't see those comments.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is like, wasn't there like a
well, I can like reword it as well. I think the legit problem with Reddit, not like Redditors, the Reddit system, is that you'll have one person who just makes a post, and that post just becomes things like 6 posts a day maybe, and any post goes up the top. Why are we making an entire Reddit thread about Johnnyboi stupid tweet? You know, like that's not necessarily meant to be a discussion. There's already a discussion on Twitter about that entire thing. Why is that blowing up? And there's like two solutions.
Just really
That's
quickly,
one person doing
on
it.
Twitter, no one. Yummy, just very quickly. On Twitter, no one thought it was like out of place. No one at all. Everyone was just like reacting to it normally because it's not out of place. Like that is just a normal tweet, and it was like directed at T-Bates, not really like Reddit. So no one thought, whoa, where is this coming from? It's a super just standard tweet. Not all my tweets get that reaction. Some of my tweets garner a ton of like negative responses. But that one, I didn't expect there to be a Reddit thread about it. I was like, I don't think this tweet's particularly weird. But the reason is people actually, I think the Reddit, like people who are upvoting, they actually do like that kind of stuff. So they see that and they're like, upvote. And they don't comment. Yeah. So it's like the commenters are the ones who don't like it. And they'd rather talk about how annoyed they are than the actual topic. Like they'd rather have a discussion about how boring NA versus EU is than actually talk about NA versus EU. I think talking about how boring it is more boring, in my opinion. I think NA versus EU is very interesting.
We're also now having a discussion on how boring NA versus EU's discussion is of NA versus EU.
Yeah, but now it's like more interesting again because you know we're meta gaming. But I can't believe they'd rather like have a 300 comment thread discussing how boring NA versus EU is than actually get into the stats. You know, get into the stats. Maybe like don't upvote that, don't comment in that thread. Make a new thread, comment in that one instead. I don't get it. But yeah, I don't really think that there's anything Reddit can do about this. It's just it comes with the site. It comes with, you know, I guess for people like me, it comes with the job. There's only about
6 threads a day on the Rocket League Esports Reddit, and so like if you're just making any thread, it gets a significant amount of viewership. You know, a League of Legends subreddit, or I don't know about LoL Esports subreddit, but the League of Legends subreddit. You know, unless you make an absolute banger tweet about something original or maybe not original, but something like huge, it's not going to be seen. It's not going to get to the front page.
Yeah. The other thing to remember as well is like, you know, I've said many times I don't really care about seeing stuff like this because I've been live streaming for so long and I've seen every negative comment imaginable in my Twitch chat, and I've like, you know, trained myself not to care. So like when I read stuff like this on Reddit, I don't care. But I know like some of my colleagues and like some players actually don't like seeing that, and they stop looking at the Reddit entirely, or they don't want to, you know, engage. So it is definitely pushing some people away. And I don't really comment on the Reddit that much either.
Well, it's
very, very rarely because I don't really want to. It's never really been my thing. I'm not really much of a Redditor. It's definitely
like the best place to talk about the esport in general. Like I don't know. It's just.
I love Reddit. There's obviously a reason we're bringing it up.
It's a great forum. Like the forum, like trying to have any kind of conversation on Twitter is like very bad. Where like Twitter, Twitch, like you can't have a conversation on Reddit. Like the site is like very well put together for that. It just like you know, those threads that are trying to have, you know, deep conversations don't really get voted. Maybe a couple people want to talk about it, not really many. But yeah, I think overall, not much Reddit can do, not much the mods can do. It's gonna be a negative community as Rocket League grows. It's gonna get more negative. It's gonna get more contrarian. There's nothing to do about that. It's just gonna happen. But stop like pretending that you guys don't enjoy it. Like Reddit's in denial. They enjoy like the, you know, seeing these controversial threads.
Like just another thing as well. If people really do hate the NA versus EU debate, like it's very obvious that I mean us four, like we go on the subreddit. I don't really read the paragraphs. I just read the little headlines and maybe a couple sentences.
Yeah.
But like I go there and I read stuff. So if there is like an actually more interesting topic, then it's very easy to make a post and like, you know, get it out there and stuff like that, because people like us and plenty of other people will actually go and look at that stuff. So if you're making a post about we're talking about it now about why the NA versus EU debate is bad, like if it was actually a different topic that was like something substantial that people could actually have a discussion about, it probably would be being discussed right now instead of this. You know what I mean?
Do you all agree, or do we agree that, you know, having comments on comments about how bored people are about the NA versus EU debate does nothing? That's not going to stop it from happening. It's not going to change how many times people like me tweet about it, talk about it on my stream. I don't care how many people on Reddit think it's boring. I'm going to keep doing what I want to do regardless.
Yeah, no.
And so is everyone in the Rocket League
of
community.
course.
No one's changing their opinion based on Reddit saying, actually, I find this boring.
Well,
we don't care. So it's doing nothing. This achieves nothing. Just comment nothing. If you really don't care, comment nothing. Then the thread is going to get less traction in the first place. So you're going to have a more, I think, happy time with your life. You can go do literally anything else. If you're really that bored by it, as well, just do something else.
It's important as well for just to be mindful of, I guess, the hardcore Redditors, not to sort of just gatekeep too much those like these sort of discussions and things like that. When, you know, there might be like, you know, little Timmy who's like, oh, I really want to, like, I think they're so much better than NA. I think EU sucks. Like, and then they go on there and everyone's just like, don't ever talk about EU versus NA. Like, this debate is terrible. And then you just see it and it's like, oh, I don't really want to talk about it. It's a similar thing with, even I was looking at, say, the live RLCS doing EU on the weekend, and I mentioned something about the timeouts, how important it is to not call a timeout.
Yeah.
I mentioned how important it is to not call a timeout when you're 3 games down, when it's match point, to call it 2-0, because I still see it all the time. And then there's these hardcore Redditors like, this is such an old topic. I can't believe casters are still bringing up people calling timeouts at game 3 because no one does it anymore. I haven't seen a single team call a timeout for 2 years on 3 games on match point. They always do it early. And I was like, well, firstly, no, that's not true. But
teams literally did it.
Yeah, we're still seeing it. Team Liquid literally did it.
Team Liquid literally did it. Yeah.
Oh, the semi-final. Secondly, it's still an interesting thing because not everyone has watched Rocket League for 4 years and knows when to call a timeout or why it could be beneficial in certain situations. It can, you might see again like little Timmy who's watching be like, oh yeah, that's actually a great point. I understand like the people that are in the Reddit are the most hardcore fans, but you have to realize as well that you're probably not even the majority that are watching the stream. A lot of people still don't use the Reddit.
Yeah.
You might be like the 20%, the hardcore. Just be mindful of that is what I'm saying, like when you're talking, because it is a bit of like a hive mind of the hardcore that think this is so repetitive. Oh, I've heard Johnny talk about EU versus NA so much, but
you're not the fourth time again.
But you're still not the majority. You have to realize it's still a product and it's going to be towards the casual audience for the most part as well.
Yeah.
Just don't gatekeep too much. That's all I'm saying.
They're so confidently wrong about so many things as well. CJ, what was that amazing comment that you saw? It was getting massively upvoted. So it was in the Quadrant Team Liquid series. There was an open net. I think Atto or Oski took a shot at the Quadrant net, which was wide open.
This is just you guys venting now.
This is a great moment though. I would say go back and watch it. It's so funny to watch back after seeing the CJ's tweets about it because everyone reacted like CJ and JamesBot were crazy for saying, "Oh my goodness, a Chronic saved his teammate's shot," because they knew based on the camera angle they had that that's absolutely what happened. But then so many people on Reddit and even in Twitch chat and all the socials were like, the casters need to get their eyes checked. What are they talking about? Ixo was in the goal. And yeah, you actually. But then
people were jumping in like, wait, let me see it. What happened? Then people are sharing the clip around like, yeah, what the hell? He was there. It's crazy that the casters didn't pick up on that. And then people saying like, oh, I understand the casters are in the moment and sometimes they can miss these things, but he was clearly going to save that. And it was like, I was like, whoa, hang on a minute. Like, no, it's not true at all. But it was just sort of everyone jumping into this agreement, which I guess is more of, the hive mind situation where it's like, yeah, he wasn't going to get that. Then the next person comes in and is like, yeah, why would they do that? Yeah, what are the casters doing? How are they not picking up on this? What are they watching? And then it sort of just keeps adding on and it keeps getting upvoted and stuff, which is why I actually tweeted, because we were watching the player cams, not the angle you saw, and it was clearly an open net. But it just goes to show just how quickly people's opinions can sort of deviate.
Yeah, it's
very interesting.
It's so funny to see. It's so consistent though. This is like it's expected. It comes with the job that people will be confidently wrong with their takes about you. You just have to laugh about it and go to the replay, get a tweet. Free impressions for CJ, the impression farmer.
The hairline clip is now on YouTube. No way.
Yes. Man, that poor guy.
Oh,
So
I wasn't even listening. I was chatting.
So we've got an update actually on the SSA thing. What's happened, Yummy? What's going on?
So Wonder Mike just tweeted that he's not going to SSA anymore because people around him, I'm guessing friends and family, think it's too dangerous. So he's going to have to dominate NA instead. So he's going to turn that around. He's going to turn around NA and be winning NA and winning Worlds now.
I don't know if that fully stops him because the initial tweet was something like Lunar and C Money were looking for a third. Wanda Mike was an option. I don't know, but that's just Wanda Mike was an option, but he was not their definitive option because Wanda Mike was also looking for something in NA.
So those also, other two Turbo Pulsa said in Twitch chat like a while ago that he wanted to go. So there's him. There you go.
He's open.
Yeah, it looks like it looks like they could still be going, the other two, without Wonder Mike, but we'll have to keep an eye on the situation. That's all the updates we have for you guys for now. One other thing I wanted to talk about this week was the fact that Zen is apparently now one's main. Don't know if you guys have been following that. Yeah, he's just dominating every game mode now. He's been a twos grinder for years. Everybody's saying he's going to be the best threes player of all time when he gets unbanned and he can play. But yeah, he's also now one's main. He beat Jack, beat Moxie. Yeah, I don't know who's going to stop this guy. He's kind of ridiculous. He beat Lost on NA servers. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. How is Zen so good? What is happening?
Is he him?
Well,
that's the question.
He's him. I think he might be him.
Be the best player ever in RLCS? Like, is that like, does that convert?
I think that has to come along with like team success as well. You know, I don't know if it matters how good they'd have to like win lands. You know, whereas Vitality or whatever team he's on in the future. I feel like I feel like it's hard to be known as the best player to ever touch the game without ever achieving like a lot of success.
But will he? You know, are you going to predict that? Like, he is on the team with the sixth best player in the world.
That's true, Alpha. And, well, he drove past the ball a couple of times, which was interesting. I was actually chatting to Alpha a bit yesterday. And apparently it probably just wasn't on the grind as much compared to the Regional 1. He said he dropped off the hours a little bit, so he's back on the grind. He'll be back up to 120. I'm expecting Vitality to go big because that was a bit of an interesting...
Yeah, he did not look great, but yeah.
I think we were talking about this like last Chalkcast, maybe 2 weeks ago or something, where I brought up, it looks like he ended up closing FIFA or something like that. And then his first ever chat message in my chat was right then and there. And he was like, I haven't opened it in months. I've been on the grind or something. So it looks like he closed Rocket League and opened FIFA back up.
Yeah, unfortunately he did.
It got him back.
No way. He did not play FIFA, did he? No way.
I gotta pull up his logs now.
Yeah, he just said to me.
He's been playing FIFA now.
Basically, what happened was Alpha hit me up. It was 6 a.m. His time, and he was playing OCE threes on 320p, saying that he's carrying threes and that our region sucks. So that was really good to hear. But then I was like, what are you doing at 6 a.m? And he said, well, I've got to keep grinding. I didn't grind enough this regional, so I played terrible. I was legit a bot. So now I'm going to grind my ass off for 2 weeks so we can make San Diego. So, yeah, apparently
but it's fine because it's fine though, because as you know, as T-Bates has told us many times, you know, if Alpha messes up, it's because his teammates are not good enough to motivate him to practice and then be the player he, you know, should be.
Wait, has he said that?
Yeah. Well, not exactly those words, but yeah, definitely
to motivate him. His teammates aren't good enough to motivate him.
Yeah, when Fairy Peak and K-Dot were in the team with him, Alpha's not motivated to practice.
There's no point in actually playing, you know,
and be the sixth best player in the world because his teammates aren't good enough to motivate him to even play the game. But yeah, he can still like ignore that and correctly and confidently place him top 6 in the world. Just assuming he's thinking, right, if he had teammates that motivate him, this is where he'd be. But you know, his potential is there, but man, he's got to get the work ethic. It seems like it's very inconsistent right now. Come on, Alpha, we need to get We need to get Vitality to this LAN. If you guys mess this third regional up, I don't know what I'm going to say.
I'll be
Like,
fine.
surely they're going to get another top 4 and just be fine. Just get in.
Speaking of, I guess, dominance, I just want to quickly. This isn't an NAEU thing, but I think in terms of the ecosystems again, Gen G.
Any RCU thing.
No, Gen G and KC dominating is like the happiest I've been in terms of how I like looking at the esport. I love it. I know we have this debate about whether it's good if you get heaps of different winners or no one's dominating. I love that we've got 2 absolute powerhouses in the 2 big regions. It is awesome to see. I think this is so good. Adds so much more. I don't know. Just whenever KC's playing, whether it's quarterfinals, semis, or something, you're watching and you're like, can they get beat? Like, are we going to see him slip up? I love whole aspect.
Can we at least have some closer matches though? Like, have a little bit of a downturn. I guess they played. The quarterfinals were a little bit. It was all Vatira and that. But once it got to the final day for KC, like Itachi was the best player in the world, and it was just so easy.
Right now, he is ridiculous. If we're just talking like winter split, so far he's top 3 in the world, like easily. He's insane. Itachi's like outperformed Vatira overall.
Vatira, he still carries.
Vatira's he's a monster. I don't think he won V3s like some people think he does.
And I don't necessarily need all 4-3 game 7s, but at least not 4-0 stomps left, right, and center. This weekend was also really interesting with like not certain players, but like players struggling as well. It felt like some people were just absolutely dominating, some people were having a rough time. A lot of crossbars hit in multiple regions this weekend. It was a fun weekend, but also like somewhat of a boring weekend in terms of how the matches played out.
The matches were quite one-sided a lot, yeah. But the gameplay was definitely exciting at times with the mechanics, the increasingly evident, incredible mechanics. But yeah,
so who's better, Carmine Corp or Gen G?
I'm going to keep saying Gen G until I say otherwise, but I don't want to get into that. I want to ask Johnnyboi real quick, because I know that we had this discussion in the green room after a certain series. Team Quadrant made top 4, whilst to me, visually, still, there were double commits, not having any offense, they just scrapped their way to a top 4. I know that you were quite, visually annoyed after the Vitality series.
I just want to say for the record, though, I'm annoyed because Stumpy was the only one in the EU pre-show who predicted that, and then somehow Alpha just couldn't hit the ball, so Stumpy was right. That's why I'm annoyed. I actually really like Quadrant. I think that
I love the boys.
They're great.
How they're playing, I mean.
But yeah, how they're playing. I think they're not a top 5 team on peak that we've seen this split. I think they're still a little bit behind the top 5, probably like 6, 7. But hey, they're in the top 5 overall because they've been consistent enough. They've made a deep run. They're beating Vitality, so that's an super impressive result. But yeah, they were tweeting a little bit like, why are we getting underestimated? Why do we not get as much praise as other teams? They've correctly identified this because none of them are really content creators, and they're an EU team. So people, EU team who aren't content creators get kind of underrated naturally by the Rocket League scene, but they could still, they can make it back to a major for sure. They're in the top 5 right now. I wouldn't mind it.
It feels like the first split all over again, where we're thinking surely they're not going to do it, and then they make it. And after the first regional, it felt like they'd sort of were maybe going down on the downtrend, but after this one, they just find a way to win. I don't know what it is about their team, but I think they just have a good setup. I guess they got a good support network around them. We've got Snasky behind them. Did
you see, by the way,
mentally maybe just find a way?
Did you see how close they were to just straight up being eliminated from their group though? Game 5 in their 3rd series of the group, their last series of the group. If they lost Game 5, they're out of the group. They're 4th place. If they win Game 5, they win the group. It was that close. The group was super close, right down the middle. But yeah, Quadrant did get the win. And they had a tiebreaker with BDS, which BDS were not too happy about. BDS didn't like that.
Do we want to touch on the tiebreakers a little bit? I know Seiko was very public about it, tweeting about how bad it was. I tweeted about it.
I tweeted about it as well. Yeah, we probably should touch on it. So for those who didn't keep up with the group stage action, what happened is that Quadrant and BDS tied for 2 series wins and 1 series loss. So obviously there needs to be a tiebreaker there because they're in the same series score. And the tiebreakers are as follows for the winter split. The first tiebreaker is game differential against tied teams, and the second tiebreaker is game differential. Now, that confused BDS. They thought game differential was the first tiebreaker, and they did have a better game differential against the group overall, +4 game differential. Quadrant was only +1. But yeah, since the tiebreaker is game differential against tied teams, you just look at who won the series between Quadrant and BDS. That was Quadrant, therefore Quadrant get the win. So it looks a bit silly in the group graphic because you got a +4 losing to a +1. Doesn't really appear sensible, but yeah, it's because Quadrant beat BDS. Like head to head has been prioritized.
Yeah, it is a very confusing rule because, like, obviously in the other side, it ended up being that there was in order of game differential, so it looked like that was the tiebreaker. But
yeah.
This is kind of like more just head to head. But
yeah, like the other ones make more sense because they actually like when they didn't skip on the game differential, like +4, +3, -1. But the BDS group goes +1 to +4. Like they definitely had a better game differential, so it looks extremely odd when you're looking at it.
See, the confusion is that people thought that the Carmine Corp group was using a different tiebreaker for 3 teams, but it's actually not. It's the same tiebreaker. It's just that game differential against 5 teams. When there's 3 teams, you look at all 3 of the matches that were played between those 3 teams, total up the games there, and that's how you break the 3-way tie. For a 2-way tie, it's just head to head. It's the same tiebreaker though. The wording is the same.
Can we? Yeah, I understand that the wording is the same, but like it's not actually the same tiebreaker. Like I get it.
It is.
No. I understand what you're saying, but
no, I don't think you do. I
don't think you understand what I'm saying. Garrett actually made a tweet about this, and he was like, "It doesn't make sense that the tiebreakers change." And then somebody was like, "They don't change." I get it. I understand exactly what you're saying. The wording is the same, but why are you not calling why do you? Okay, well, let me just read the tiebreaker rule. It says game differential against tied teams. If there's 2 teams that are tied, why is the confusion there that it's not just called head to head? Why is
because that doesn't cover the 3 teams.
And then,
for 3 teams, it would be
I get that. I do get that. I understand how it works. But what I'm saying is when people are sitting here confused about this, and then I see people on Twitter being like, oh, well, it's actually so simple. It's not. That's the reason why so many people are confused in the first place, is because it goes from Group B, it took a head-to-head result, and you can word it however you want. It took a head-to-head result because it took the game differential between 2 teams, which is just head-to-head.
Tied teams.
The 2 tied teams. Yeah, there's no questioning that. And then Group A is 3 tied teams, so they took the game differential between 3 tied teams, which is not head-to-head.
Which is it's head-to-head.
Sure, whatever.
Yeah.
But why is it so incredibly confusing? Like people are like,
I don't think that's confusing. I think that's very simple.
But Johnny, you have to understand, there are so many people confused, which means it's confusing.
Well, people are confused.
And we've always talked about RLCS and RL Esports being confusing for new viewers and all this stuff. And then you're looking at this and you're like, no, actually, that's not confusing.
Well, okay, so another thing I should add here is I do prefer game differential as a tiebreaker in all groups like this. I think it's just my favorite tiebreaker because it's how you performed against the whole group, not how you did in one particular matchup, in my opinion. But head to head and head to head it's a format that's been used many times in lots of different sports.
How is it
mostly American sports? Because what you do if 3 teams are tied is you ignore all the matches that those teams played against the team not in the tie. So if you show Group A on the stream, the 3 matches that you need to look at are the Carmine Corp versus G1 match there at the bottom. G1 have a +1 there, Carmine Corp -1. Then you also need to add in G1 versus SA. That makes G1's 0 because they've got +1 and -1 is 0. SA are now +1 and Carmine Corp are -1. Then at the very top, you got Carmine Corp 3-0ing SA. So they go from -1 to +2. SA go from 1 to -2. You just add up all of their matches against each other.
Right, yeah. You just ignore Solar. Like, yeah.
Yeah. But it's the same thing as like head to head. What does head to head do? You ignore the matches that the teams played against teams they're not tied with. It's the same thing.
But yeah, you're right. You
it's
are
just now you're looking at one match instead of three, but it is the same.
But like
it's also
when you
confusing
say
to the audience because it's been different in the past.
When you say yes, that too. When you say head to head, why are you even mentioning it's two teams and you call it head to head? Why are you even mentioning game differential? If it's 3-2, 3-1, 3-0, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's whatever team wins. So why does that matter between two teams if it's +1, +2? Why even mention the game differential in that?
Why add an extra line of a rule?
Yeah, just to save a line, you don't need another line, because if you add an extra line for two teams ties, head to head, for 3 team ties, game diff against tied teams, when you could just like make it for all ties, game diff against tied teams. It's the same.
First off, CJ, I'm not reading all that in chat. That's way too much. Second off,
someone just randomly came in and just trashed on Cash. Like he's not going to get any respect until he performs in a 3rd regional. Like it was crazy. Anyway, back on this, Rizzo. Like for me, it's game diff against tied teams. There's 2 tied teams or there's 3 tied teams. Like what is confusing about that? Or it's head to head against tied teams, and there might be 2 teams tied or 3 teams tied. Like what? Where is the confusion with that? That's what I want to know.
It makes sense if you just read it literally, but when you go from
as opposed to what reading it metaphorically.
Ironically, yeah, no. If you like fucking sit there and study it, that's what I'm saying. Like
you need to study it.
Yes, because when you I know Johnny's gonna say the same shit.
No, it's confusing because people don't read the rule whatsoever. Nobody reads that rule.
From 2 teams, it's just the same thing. I'm just repeating myself now. When you go from 2 teams, it's head to head. When you go from 3 teams, it's game differential.
It's head to head.
Well, it's game differential against tied teams. Key information. You can't just say game diff.
Look, I see what you sort of mean.
It's different. Like it's different.
It's not just a 1-to-1. It turns into like a 3 instead of the whole group, which I sort of see like that side of things that you do all of a sudden
No, Rizzo, how do you do the head to head instead of game differential?
Quit calling it head to head. Just call it game.
No, but how do you want to tie break the 3 teams?
No, I think that makes sense. Game differential.
Yeah, no, game diff is good. Game diff is good. I think game diff would be better here.
But like the whole group, you mean, Rizzo? Not.
But you realize, Rizzo, that
you want the whole group differential or what it currently is?
No, can I point something out though? I think I've got a better question. So, what would your second tiebreaker be in the case of if we use game differential for the whole group?
I'm not arguing that the tiebreakers are bad. All I'm saying is it's confusing as hell.
Well, Rizzo, all I wanted to point out is that it doesn't get less confusing if you flip them and use game differential as to hit the first tiebreaker. It stays the same because the second tiebreaker would be game diff against tied teams. That would be the second tiebreaker. It wouldn't be head to head in the case of 2 teams in this. Like all you would do is flip the tiebreakers, have one happen before the other, and they would still both exist. So the element of confusion I don't think would change. The only thing that would change is that you wouldn't have cases like this happening where a +1 is above a +4. Visually confusing. But as far as text goes, the text would be the same, just in a different order. If you flip the tiebreakers. Funnily enough, I think RLCS pros have in the past complained about game diff when they have the head-to-head in a situation like this, and game diff is used. Teams have complained. They're like, "Hey, it should be head-to-head." But now,
they're gonna complain. They're gonna complain either way
when it's yeah.
But if they do use game differential, is something like this able to happen? Like game? Well,
yeah, totally. You can have a completely tied like game diff. If 2 teams have the same, or if 3 teams have the same results, like if they all sweep the 4th team in the group, all 3 of the teams in the tie sweep the 4th team in the group, and they all 3-2 each other in a triangle, they're all going to have the same game diff. So then they would be split by game diff against each other, game diff against tied teams. So you would still need that tiebreaker. We wouldn't be getting rid of the tiebreaker people are calling fraudulent if we use game diff as the first tiebreak.
Anyway, my complaint about it was that, obviously Seika was complaining about it because, as you said, you look at the group, game diff, they had the most game diff BDS, but they came second. And I guess my point that I tweeted about on Twitter was it just seems weird that, if you lost to the other team in the tiebreaker in a purely head-to-head, then you're trying to say, well, we beat all the other teams better than you did sort of situation. Well, you lost to the other team that is also in first place. So clearly you should be second.
Do you guys use that go both ways? In Australia? What's the real sports usually use tiebreaker? Is it game diff or head to head? Which would be usually the preference? I know in America head to head is pretty common, right?
We would use just I guess you could say game diff, because we use like percentage, like it was scoring, win, loss. Like in AFL, it'll be like, most points versus least points. So you go on percentage, like how much you're beating.
Right, so yeah, the overall against the whole group thing.
Yeah, but in that situation though, it's more of a whole league system, like a whole season. You're playing, 20 matches
multiple times.
Yeah, which then it makes sense. But the problem with groups and doing game diff, I find, is that you might play the team that ends up finishing fourth, right, in the first game. They're up and about, they're ready to go, and you win 3-2 because they're try-harding. It's game 5 OT or whatever. And then the same team that ties with you might play that team in the last match when that team's already been eliminated. Like there's nothing on the line, and they 3-0 them because they can't even get third anymore, and that team's not trying as much. They might start trolling, and then you're still weighing those two games exactly the same, and then that team might be first because of game diff. But the situation's different in those series. Does that make sense? I feel like it adds into.
Yeah. That makes sense, but I think the problem there in that world you're describing isn't the tiebreaker; it's the following thing, the next thing that happens. Like if you've only got one team progressing from a group of 4, for example, like let's say you had a group of 4, the winner qualifies for playoffs, the other 3 are out. Then you're going to get a lot of that. You're going to get a lot of teams like, oh well, we lost our first 2 games, we're out. Third series doesn't matter. We're all going to play the mark. Yeah. So that would be a bad idea, because you're going to get teams trolling and teams not putting 100% effort in. But I don't think that happens here because 3 teams make it out of the group. So I don't think it's possible to go into your final series and not have a chance. I think you always have a chance to make it out, no matter what. I might be wrong with that. If there's a scenario, I'd love to see it.
But also, there's a situation like we saw with the Liquid Vitality series where if Vitality didn't win 3-1, then they couldn't win the group. So then after they drop 2 games, there's not as much incentive to win the game 5. Do you know what I mean? Like there's still those sort of situations where you need to win by a certain amount or something, and then once you don't hit that, you might be like, oh well, who cares? Because the Liquid Vitality match sort of meant nothing in that grand scheme of things with where they were moving. So I feel like there's always going to be some sort of situation where groups, you can either manipulate it, or if we drop this game, we might get a better seed, or it might mean we play this team or that team going into groups, going into the bracket. Like I just think purely head to head, like there's no complaints. If you lost to the other team in the tiebreaker, then bad luck, you're second. I think it's just very simple. It's an
objectively fair tiebreaker. I think it's perfectly fair. And actually, Direct has pointed out in chat, well, he's confirming what I'm saying, that the current tiebreakers, it's not possible to be eliminated after 2 series with the current tiebreakers. Not possible. Even if you go 0-3, 0-3, you still have a chance if you could just 3-0 your final match or something. So that's the advantage of the current tiebreakers over just starting off with game diff. Because if you have game diff and you go 0-3, 0-3, and the other teams have all done pretty well, like traded games, you might just be already out. I think it could just be an objective fact.
Yeah.
You might just be completely eliminated. But yeah,
I mean, let's be fair on BDS as well, the originator of this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
They lost a quadrant. Quadrant were either going to be 4th or 1st, and then Quadrant end up coming top 4 in the event and have brought themselves back in the major, and BDS are now essentially out. So devastating.
I think the other part of this whole thing is I saw a bunch of people on Twitter as well, with the which it's valid, but it's also such a cringe argument of just win your games. Like it's such a dumb thing because when there's okay, this even happened last season, right? When the group stages were a thing, there was issues. People complained about the format. A lot of people like Swisses, whatever. They don't really complain that much. They just don't like it. But every time group stage comes around, people are like, "There's issues with this. This is questionable," which is why they changed it this time around.
Death, whatever.
Yeah, groups, and then they do groups again, and there's issues, whatever. But people are making the argument that oh, just win your games, which it makes sense. But if there's always a problem with the group stage stuff, I don't think group stage should actually continue to be a thing.
But didn't this happen?
I don't like the groups of 4.
In a sense,
not even a long time ago. I swear we had multiple episodes where we had pros on who say they don't like Swiss because you get random tough runs through Swiss. They don't.
But what I'm saying, you're right. But I'm saying the arguments are different. The arguments are different for why they don't like it. They say, "Oh, we don't know who it is, or it's too long, or
but
whatever."
But you can get the death run in Swiss as well. You can get the run of death, and another team gets a life run.
I'm arguing actual issues, like the +1 into the +4. That's a really weird looking thing To like it makes sense. You know, we've all just said this, that it makes sense that head-to-head should be the rule here, but it looks weird, and you can't deny that that a team goes from +1 to +4.
It could be visualized better. I feel like just showing the 4 teams in a little table like that makes it look really weird. But you could have it like visualize a different way. To show that team actually has the head-to-head win, and that's why they're first. Like, you know, they don't have to show. I don't know
sort
why,
of moving up and down on a table.
Why show the game diff?
Yeah, if game diff wasn't even there, like a check mark to head-to-head or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah, they should just be visualized differently to indicate that actually game diff isn't the main tiebreaker. It's down here in the actual scores below. That's what you need to be looking at. So it's more of a, I don't think it's a format problem. I think it's just like a communication problem. But yeah, full blame has to go on BDS as well. The rules have not changed since the start of the season. They could have read the rules. It's not, I don't think that hard to understand. They've got lots of support staff. They've got a coach. They've got management. They've got smart players. They should have known what the tiebreaker was. I don't know if it changed the way that they played. They 3-0'd their last round, so I don't think it changed anything for them in that regard. But yeah, it was their fault for not knowing what the rules were, and their fault for letting it affect them mentally by like going straight to Twitter, and I think furthering how tilted they were by like manifesting that negativity. So yeah, I think they kind of beamed it there. They probably should have just like taken it on the chin, said, "Hey, our bad. We didn't know the format because we didn't read the rules. Whoops." You know?
Yeah, BDS also ended their stream because they thought they made it to the next day, and then they had to go resume their stream. They restarted it, and then they lost.
Did you see their tweets, by the way? Oh my! I don't know why orgs are doing this these days, but BDS have got an absolute clanger of a tweet chain, which I'll have to share with you guys, because they're going down the whole, like, you know, you had one of these, Rizzo, with your retirement, you know, the benched Rizzo benched graphic. BDS have got a whole chain of happy and sad looking player shots to illustrate, for those who can't be bothered reading, what's actually happened here. So I'll link it in the chat. You guys can go and look at this if you want to.
I can also show this on stream.
Oh, you can show the stream even better. So
it actually cut perfectly.
Yeah, we've got a happy extra, we've got a sad extra, a sad Seiko, then we've got a big Monkeyman win. You know, they've got the happy and sad shots to go with the victory and the loss tweets. Look at how happy extra is if you scroll up, by the way, in the previous series when they thought they won the group. We secured first place in our group, happy extra, and then actually we're eliminated. Sad
we're
extra.
out of bridges.
What is this?
Yeah, it's tragic.
A little update on the SSA scenario. Luna just tweeted that he's also not going to SSA for the exact same reason. So, and he's going to have to farm the NA bubble.
It sounds like they actually, you know, I reckon happened here. They probably like went and watched some tape on Limitless, and they're like, "Nah, we don't want that smoke." I think they've dodged. To be honest, I think they're dodging. They're scared.
Yeah, I think they're scared. They should go. They're
saying the regions, the area is dangerous to go. I think what they mean is that it would be dangerous to get into a lobby with Limitless and get exposed as like bubble players in NA. So yeah, dodged. They need to work on their trash talk if they're going to dodge that simple, that quick.
Facts. Oh, anyway, have we covered everything?
We've got a very quick thing to mention, and that is that, well, Gen G have balls back in their court. I think we started talking about KC domination, and we've ended up in BDS, but yeah, balls back in Gen G's court to match KC's 5 regional finals in a row. Gen G are on 4. Obviously, they have the major final as well, so they've actually got 5 overall. But regionally, balls back in Gen G's court to try and one-up Carmine Corp. 3-way tie in South America. If you want to see an incredibly dramatic invitational, Sam, of course, have 2 spots for majors. They have a 3-way tie for first place. 3 teams are all in the same points, so that's going to be ridiculous to watch. And there's a 2-way tie for first place in APAC because Elevate have won the second event. So that's going to be
and
cool.
Detonator threw hard. Oh my god.
Yeah.
They won the first event and then came 5th to 8th in the second,
I didn't know that.
Losing not to Elevate or to Gladiators.
Yeah.
The 2 teams they're competing with, losing to Lycus Empire, who are outside. Well, they're still in contention, technically.
Isn't that the team with SIG?
That's the SIG team. Yeah, that's the American team. Yeah.
The American team in APAC, yeah.
Yeah, but to be clear, they're not like imports. They're just Americans who
they actually just live there.
To join together. One of them's like half American, half Japanese. So
yeah, that's going to be really interesting. Two very, very close regions there, as Sam and APAC. And the other news for all of you to go and do your homework on is well, not you guys, but the viewers and listeners, is that the groups are out for NA RLCS this weekend. So we've got more speculation about which group is a group of death.
D.
This time it might be Group D for death. Yeah, Space Station.
At least I'm
crew,
sorry
obviously.
to A crew, you know.
Is it a crew? I thought it was a crew.
Well, it's it's a crew, but you know.
A crew, okay.
A crew sounds sick though. I like
A
that.
crew sounds good. So I've been calling on
Group
that.
D is sick.
You've got Complexity, the finalists. You've got Space Station, who underperformed a little bit in the last event, but are known to just be so consistent against
In groups, especially
teams below them. And then Furia, who only lost to Gen G. So a really tough group. And there's a chance that one of those three previously mentioned could get beaten by a crew and then lose their major contention.
Then what else we got here? G2V1 Knights Ghost Gaming. I think G2V1 should be fine. Phase Energy, Matey, and Spotify.
That's an interesting one because Matey took down Phase. The last one could take down NRG. Shopify could take down NRG.
That's just the thing of any group NRG's in though. Everyone, it's sort of like, oh, that group's kind of interesting because there's sort of always that possibility. But I don't think it's
if NRG win the group. That would be cool.
How have Optic managed to scam their way into the Koi Dignitas group? What is that? How have they been blessed? After a dead last finish, they've been blessed with Dignitas and Koi in the group. Although I think Dignitas are actually a very solid team, so that could be a tough match for them.
Hey, but Johnny, finally we're going to see Gen G win a group. How good would that be? Actually doing well day one.
Yeah, they should win that group, and that would be helpful for their opponents.
Maybe they'll lose after they win a group. They just don't know what happens here.
What do we do? How do we get better than winning?
Do we have any like early predictions for who's going to win the whole event? Do you guys have a favorite this
Energy
time?
top 4.
Again, you said that last time, right?
I know I did. If I keep saying it though, I could be like Bates and then see like, I told you so.
I want Gen G. I want Gen G desperately to win the group so that we have a situation in the third event where we've got two teams fighting for the first ever Grand Slam in each region.
Yeah, I think Gen G can win again. They look pretty immaculate.
They look so good in the last
I reckon we could see a Complexity Fury Grand Final. Do what we did in the first regional where it was the same group. You know, Gen G Complexity were in the same group last time. I could see it.
That's Gen G would be, if Furia won their group, then they'd be in the same side as Gen G if Gen G won their group. So Furia need to make sure they don't win their group this time.
I guess we're predicting who gets second then. Who gets second if Gen G are just going to win? I reckon it's tough.
I'm going to go Complexity again. I think
I'll go FaZe.
Yeah.
FaZe have the right group for it this time.
Yeah, FaZe Regain, I could see that. I'm going to say Furia, though, because I think they started pretty strong, and I could see them improving week to week.
Are you saying that Furia don't win their group and then make the run through the other side?
Yeah, obviously, we might just get unlucky and be wrong because we predict the team that's playing Gen G in the semis. We're like, no, my finalists.
Yeah, whoever wins Group D will probably be up against Gen G in the semis.
Well,
so you can't
Group D get a great group, really, because they're just going to be playing Group B. Like, they're playing NR. If you get second in your group, assuming FaZe win Group B, Group D, second and third are either playing NRG, Matey, or Shopify in round one. So I think that's a pretty nice group to come out of. Like, they're not. I don't know. I guess
G2 though. I mean, I guess no matter what, it's going to be scary once you're in the quarterfinals. But yeah,
you would take any. You'd take Complexity, or Furia, or SSG, like whichever two of those teams finish second, third, assuming that they actually are the top three teams in that group.
They're in the quarters at least.
Yeah. They're gonna all have favorable matchups. Like, I think everybody would predict them over like the Group B teams, any of the Group B teams except FaZe. So yeah, interesting stuff. I can't wait for it. I would love to see Gen G win again because it's nice when it's just predictable for a change. Threes is so unpredictable historically. It's nice when we can actually be right.
You can't actually believe that. It's fun when it's predictable. Don't you love chaos?
I love it.
Why?
Well, I love when you can as like
as a
predictor go live and be like, this team's gonna win, and they actually win. Like it is so annoying historically when you're like, this team have never lost to the other team, they're undefeated in quarterfinals, look at all this data that's gonna show that they're gonna win this, and then they lose for no reason, and I'm like, why did they lose that? That's just cringe. You weren't supposed to lose.
You were
supposed to win.
How dare you?
Sounds like OCE every weekend, Yummy.
Oh yeah. Well,
Power should definitely. They beat G2. They nearly beat Liquid. They should definitely win this regional. They come 5th, 8th.
I mean, that was also ruined because so many teams disbanded that. Ground Zero were the number 8 seed because there were only 7 teams that even were there willing to accept the invite to the event. There were literally only 7 teams left that had points and accepted invites. And so
Luna
Ground
and that
Zero
should come to OCE. That I'd accept that. We'd welcome them with open arms.
Please, just bring some more.
That's I don't want to say it's a better holiday because I've never been to Cape Town, but you can get some nice beaches. Go to the East Coast, go to Sydney, go to Brisbane.
There's more prize money as well, since they want
to prize money. If they want to win, if they think they can win, it's safe. Yeah, they're not unless you get bit by a snake or something. But
it's safe if you're in the city.
Yeah, well, I don't know. There could be snakes.
Have you ever died?
Spiders.
I've never died.
Sure,
but
plenty of near-death experiences, but no deaths on this podcast in Australia. So
one guy I knew that, like in my hometown, in the middle of the city, got bit by a tiger snake.
Oh,
what is it? So when you say tiger snake, what's a tiger snake?
Is it a tiger or a snake?
Crossbreed between a tiger
It's got like stripes on its back, so you know it's a tiger snake. But
it's one of the most venomous.
Yeah, that sure looks like a snake. I've Google imaged it. It's definitely a snake kind of thing.
Good to know.
With stripes.
It's half tiger, half
with them.
We have like the first, second, and third, or maybe like top 2 of the top 3. I think most venomous snakes, and also two of the top 3 most venomous spiders. So
we've got like we've got grass snakes in the UK, which is basically a piece of grass. Not venomous. It might as well be a piece of grass. They're
New Zealand doesn't have any snakes.
No?
Yeah, so we're neighbours. Well, 4 hours flight across, but still neighbours, and they're snake free. They have spiders, but
that's crazy.
Go to NZ, compete in OCE. There you go. They're completely safe over there. They're just gonna have a lot of some sheep issues if they're in the countryside. But apart from that, Luna, we're looking at you. Wonder Mike, come over here. Come over here, play in OCE. That'd be fun.
I'd love it. I'd love to see and there's like no excuses for teams that are competing in the major from OCE to lose to NA bubble. If they're not good enough to beat
that would be fine.
NA bubble teams, they're not good enough to compete at the major anyway. So screw them. and more, if they want an org to pick them up, the org's way more likely to pick up a team going to OCE than SSA because it's an actual LCS stream for that. With more viewers, so yeah, I think that's an easy decision there. Easy, make it happen, boys. Was Johnny just lagging?
Yeah, here's a super.
It's
robot.
a quick time to win. I think we're losing Johnny.
Yeah, as we're losing Johnny here, I'm gonna wrap up this episode. We appreciate you guys watching Shotcast episode 29. I'm gonna upload this on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, which I will make a tweet about later. So if you guys did miss any of it, feel free to catch up with those links. And thank you to Yummy for joining us today. And we hope you all have a good night. Bye-bye.
Good night. Bye-bye.